Looks like your credits went through just fine. Fantastic. Now, where was I? Right. You were asking about the mercs. Nox Solaris. Well, friend, you have come to the right man. Been their humble street pharmacist since just after they got together. Some of my best clients, by the way. But more importantly for you, they're the best there is at what they do. I mean, what a group. Leader's a bona fide Atlantean voyager. That's right, Atlantean. Then there's the spooky techno-wizard cyborg genius. Finally, a mystic smithy giant. 12 feet tall if he's an inch. Not to mention the mountain of a spirit bear he calls brother. Now, I can get word to him if you're looking to hire Mister. No problem there. Just let old Blitz give you 2 tiny tips for your health. First, don't get on their bad side. Make sure you have payment ready to go, and don't try to pull any bullshit, or you're worse than dead. And second, don't piss off that fucking bear.
Finally, there you are. The Nexus had just enough power to fuel one more try. The last step. The Megaverse knows my Atlantean people as heroes, but a shadow of chaos has taken root in me. They try to bind it. They try to bury it. But when I finally called out to it, to you, from across the void, you answered, I am ready.
Welcome, traveler, to the Black Shore.
Your shame reaches a mother's heart, even beyond the veil, little brother. My sister saw and mocked her as the darkness closed in. She giggled and synthesized honey-sweet tones while leaning close to softly breathe her venom into my ear. And so, with judgment passed and tourniquets in place, my family commanded the automated surgical bots to neatly slice both arms and legs from my torso. The harsh lights overhead swam and dimmed before my eyes, as flesh and bone were replaced with cold, unfeeling metal to cripple my connection to the arcane. Now, my family lies far behind my path, and I follow a new teacher as she whispers from the darkness ahead. Her voice haunts me with promises of forbidden knowledge and wonders precious beyond compare. Each step brings me closer to my prize, closer to my revenge, closer to her.
Nah, brother. My eyes read the stars as keenly as your ancient ones do. It is almost here. E is almost home. And with him comes the end for our proud and noble Vana countryman, along with the rest of the souls on this world. As his foul shadow falls upon us all, we alone stand for those who cannot. Ah. So rise, son of Aku. Our ancestors smile upon us this night as they call us home. Come and let us earn our place amongst the stars above.
Are you talking or no?
Yep, just giving it a second to build up there.
I was tripping out.
All right, guys, we are here with our next session of Prism of KeterFall, the Rifts Palladiumbooks setting campaign that is a dimensional merc operation. Today we have with us Akama and Ymir. We are going to dive right into the action today and get started, and hopefully partway through this session we may have our third Ren join us as well. We'll just see how things work out, but for now we're going to follow the adventures of Ymir and Akama and see what they are up to in the House of the Saints monastery that they find themselves in. Let's see here, we'll give a quick look at this place. Okay, now as this is loading up, last session we found ourselves in the midst of everybody kind of going off on their own and trying to do a little bit of personal development, have a little bit of downtime for the first time basically since they started this campaign. Ren is currently in a workshop with his nose deep in his research. He has had some food delivered from one of his kind companions, and he is nibbling at that while he works feverishly at some new inventions that he's been kind of going over in notes. And as he is occupied with that, we are going to switch over to Akama, who has just been training for, I believe, a few hours, correct?
About 2 hours, give or take.
Okay. So you've been training. You had that helpful individual come over and give you something of a, you wouldn't say a lesson, but a little helpful pointer on throwing a really decent question mark kick. And he did the whole thing without really saying a word and just kind of disappearing afterwards. But you definitely felt like you're starting to make some real improvements in your martial arts, and you're grateful for this time to kind of hone your skills a little bit. you look around and notice that the large crowd that is gathered are all really enjoying the show that you've been putting on, and you see that from around the corner, once again, the image of this foul individual seems to peek from around a corner. You see that he is indeed continuing to follow along with whatever your group seems to be doing. You can tell, at least for yourself, that he is very interested in your activities. And once again, as soon as you spot him, he seems to disappear around the corner and just retreat to some unknown location out of view. It makes you wonder if somebody should confront him at some point, but for now, you are definitely, enthralled in your training and enjoying this respite from combat in your travels. So it's kind of up in the air as to whether it's even that important. You do notice, though, that, let's see, we were at, I want to say, like noon. You do notice that the sun is getting high in the sky, signaling that, it's just after midday, and you're wondering if maybe you should check in with your companions at some point soon. But you definitely feel like you still have some time to continue working out. Let's see. Okay, this all looks good. One thing you did notice when Snaggletongue was looking in on you was that this time he seemed to have a little bit more wild look in his eye. And instead of having a kind of veneer, a facade of being kind of a, upstanding and sane individual, you're seeing something in the twitching in the corner of his eye that makes you think there's something really bothering this individual. He seems almost like he's losing his shit a little bit, which seems out of character for somebody in his position. He's clearly some kind of administrator here. All right. At this, we're going to switch over really quick to recap. Ymir had just enjoyed a gluttonous binge at a restaurant that was staffed by two lizard folk, small, diminutive reptilian humanoids. After getting quite a following of a crowd kind of checking out his insane consumption of huge amounts of food, the proprietors wanted to take some promotional photos with him, which he obliged them to, and it seemed like he definitely made some friends with it. There were also lots of people in the crowd that seemed to be taking pictures and videos that, who knows? Who knows what could happen from an experience like that, but it was definitely interesting for Ymir to be in the spotlight for once and have an entire group kind of just raptly and intently paying attention to what he was doing, almost like he was some kind of celebrity. The only time that he usually plies his trade is in secret and in private when he's doing his mystical smithing in his homeland or on his travels. Usually Kuznia don't really show off their skills, and that's one of the things that makes them so kind of unknown and kind of legendary to the common folk. Okay, so in that regard, in a way, it was a little bit thrilling and fun for you to have a little bit of the spotlight for a few minutes. You had gotten up and started leaving. You had spotted Wotek, your companion, kind of observing you from up on a hillock, and you saw that he kind of was skittering away as soon as he was noticed. You two had been witnessing Snaggletongue observing you just moments ago, and you had basically been ready to go find something else to do. With that recap, we're going to switch back over to Akama. What would you like to do now? You're still in the kind of training area, the kind of large workout area that's set up with all kinds of gym equipment and posts for striking and a pit for wrestling and so forth. You are surrounded right now by various small shops and almost like mini temples. But for the most part, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot in the way of entertainment. So yeah, I'll go ahead and open it up. Akama, what would you like to kind of pursue for the time being?
Well, if anything, after a nice training session, I would like to move towards something more the lines of going back to my room and maybe getting a shower. Because all this training definitely made me feel like I am, famished. So I definitely want to at least shower and then go and eat.
Okay. You actually, there's some like public showers literally right there at the training grounds if you'd like to use them, or you could go to. Had we established you guys having rooms
Nope.
for overnight? If you'd like to, let's see, I believe Harmony and Pilgrim had told you guys that if you wanted to stay this evening, they were going to be up to some things, and then tomorrow morning you could all head down together to the base of the mountain to catch transport to the aristocrats, the wandering aristocrat, and into the Bitter Creep. So why don't we say that there are rooms available? You see it posted that a standard kind of dorm style room, so you could basically pack up to 6 individuals into it, is going to run 100 credits for the night. But that will include, there's a shower and all the basic amenities, including snacks and drinks and things like that.
I got a question though.
Sure.
When we got here, weren't we in a room together? Looking at the severed arm and just talking amongst each other, so to say.
Looking at the severed arm, I don't remember you guys doing that since I think it's been a while. When you guys first got here, you came up through the structure, and then very quickly, I believe you guys went across the courtyard and right into the church, and then downstairs and started heading down into all the...
No, you're right. This was basically when we were still at the bar area. That's when we looked at the arm. Okay, yeah. I was just double checking.
Yeah, no worries at all. So there's that available to you guys for 100 credits, and if you guys wanted to pool your resources, obviously, and just all pay for it, it'll be a large enough space for Ymir to be included as well without there being a problem. And you have seen plenty of area around that would be like boarding for animals that would probably be suitable for Wotek. You guys have noticed, almost like stables and some areas that would be for more exotic kind of creatures. So
I will pay with the acquired side money that we got. That's made for, I guess, our team, our accumulated amount.
Okay. So you head on up to a counter and go ahead and make the transaction. The individual behind the counter is another one of these workers. And now that you're getting a closer look at him, you're noticing that he looks almost exactly like all the other ones that you've seen wandering around. If anything, they must all at least be related, if not outright clones, you would guess, or maybe some kind of, android that was all made to look uniform. But it's very uncanny to your eye that they really do all look almost completely identical. And if there's differences, you haven't found them yet. You make the transaction for the 100 credits if you want to go ahead and take that off of your valuables. And you are told that you will have until noon the next day to vacate your accommodations. You're also told that that lunch has passed, but you're able to get a small meal brought to your accommodations, but just to kind of tide you over if you wish. And then there will also be supper included, as well as breakfast the next morning, and that's for all three of you guys, or well, for whoever inhabits the room. Up to 6 individuals. Let's see, you head on over to the room and quickly shower up, kind of get your gear resorted and reset. And after you're finished getting dressed and readied, you definitely feel refreshed and renewed and ready to kind of hit the day running. You also feel a lot better now that you've had some time to properly train. You go ahead and head outside. Is there anything else you wanted to do while you're in the little dorm room?
No, not necessarily. And you said 150 credits?
Just 100. 100.
100.
Which
okay,
is a
okay.
great deal when you guys consider the food's included, so. Okay. So, are you wanting to stick around the room a bit or start heading out?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the restaurant area. I don't know if it's closed or not. I just making my way there.
Okay. You start heading over, and the smells coming from this place are fucking amazing. Really, really good stuff on the wind. And you yourself have a taste for certain kinds of meat that you've experienced over your travels throughout the dimensions. And you found that Earth cuisine is actually one of the more bland staples across the Megaverse that you've encountered. But this food smells like it's richly seasoned and in basically non-Earth kind of ways and traditions. It has a lot of kind of other dimensional hallmarks to it that really kind of hit your palate just right, and make you actually interested in something that might be a little out of the ordinary. As you walk around one bend in the kind of alley that you're in, you walk around the corner and the area kind of opens up into a plaza, and you can tell that this is kind of like the food court area. There's a huge tent over a large open seating area that's got lots of benches and tables set up. And as you round that corner and take a good look at this area, you actually see standing there in front of you is your companion Ymir. He apparently has just filled himself to the brim, because you can actually see his gut sticking out a bit, and he's actually almost comically standing there kind of rubbing his stomach with both hands, just gently, just to kind of help digestion a little. And as he looks over and sees you, a loud belch kind of grumbles out from between his lips and makes him flap a little bit. He definitely looks like he's just ingested a lot of food, and you would guess by all the people gathered around really enjoying the show that even though it's wrapped up, this is something that they're all going to be talking about for a long time. You also notice that over at the grill that you can see, now there's also 2 or 3 other restaurant type vendors in the area that are running out of buildings that have like a window set up open to the courtyard that you're in, the kind of food plaza. And so you can basically just do like a walk up, grab your stuff, and come over and sit down and eat. So there's roughly 3 restaurants you see represented, but the one with a grill and their whole operation kind of out in the open seems to be run by 2 small lizard-like creatures. They're humanoids, but only about 3.5 feet tall. One obviously is male, one is female, and they both seem very excited at some images they seem to have just captured in a large glass hovering grapefruit-sized object. They seem to be peering into its contents mirthfully and with great interest, and perhaps even financial aspiration. They both seem just enraptured by these images they've taken. Once again, you look over at your companion, almost kind of puzzled as to what the fuck was just going on here. With this, we're going to go ahead and toss it over to Ymir. As you're stretching and getting ready to move out, you see your companion Akama enter the plaza as well, and he kind of has a almost dumbfounded look on his face, like, what the fuck? And we'll go ahead and set it there. What would you like to be doing?
Ymir just heartily taps his gut twice, like the center, his sternum twice, after that gastrous belch that he let out. But you can hear, because of the way he's built, it sounds like 2 boulders clacking against each other when his fist meets his the center mass, kind of letting Akama know that he's had a very good meal, like it very good, and he points over at the 2 lizard creatures, the lizard couple, and just with a big bearish grin, he goes, "Very good. You should try. Little ones, very friendly."
Right on.
All right, so I give him like a wave, like, all right, cool, and then I'll start making my way toward the grill.
Okay. You head on over, and the small male lizard folk very quickly is alerted to your presence. He spins on a heel, and with reflexes born of a million repetitions, he very quickly picks up a small serving tray and his little notebook, and comes running up, just kind of hopping from one foot to the other, still in a very excited state. He comes up with a big toothy grin, and very politely, as he kind of looks you over, you can tell that he's assessing that you are indeed Atlantean. And he speaks to you in fluent Dragonese, and says, "Good day, kind sir. What may I provide for you on this fine afternoon?" Again, his smile just kind of overflowing his face.
I not repeat back, but basically speak in Dragonese and let him know I would like your most tastiest meat, please.
Okay, at this, he reaches out an elbow and elbows you in the knee, and he goes, "She's not for sale," and starts laughing so hard you think he's gonna shit his pants.
I give out a nice grin and I said, "No, sir, not that kind of meat."
Okay, you see an empty can that appeared to have some kind of earth peaches of ages from long ago, that's been opened and used. It comes sailing through the air and clanks off of the back of his skull. He kind of bends forward and goes, "Oof," and looks back over his shoulder, and she's standing there making a very upset look at her husband. He looks up at you sheepishly, and he goes, "My apologies, sir. My apologies." He says, "What can I get you? Take a look at our menu." And as you kind of gaze up on the wall that he's pointing at, you see that there's, in many different languages, they've got a pretty extensive menu. Now, the thing that catches your eye is that They actually have a shellfish dish that is not native Earth shellfish. And you would guess that it must have been harvested from a dimensional rift somewhere in the nearby lake that you guys arrived on. And this particular shellfish, it actually looks like a large, fuzzy, almost like a question mark. It's like a large tube that's like shaped like a question mark, but there's large black and silver hair-like protrusions all over it. And it uses those protrusions as legs to crawl around on the ocean floor. This particular shellfish has a very sweet and rich taste to it, and it's something that you haven't actually been able to taste since you were in a very strange dimension that you remember from your travels long ago. We'll go into the specifics of that another time, but we can at least attest to the fact that it was one of the more interesting dimensions that as a Atlantean voyager you had ever visited. As you look at this item on the menu, it definitely makes you think of good times, and you haven't been able to enjoy it in many, many years. So this one catches your attention. And you also notice that they have one of your favorite Earth staples called French fries, which you've grown quite accustomed to in your time back here on your race's home planet. So anyway, as you look, those are the items that really catch your eye and look fantastic. The shellfish is just called hairy clams, and it looks like you basically can get a large order of pretty much whatever you're looking for about 20 credits. So you can't.
Is there any type of land meat, so to say, maybe like cattle or something?
Yeah,
Not necessarily cattle, but
they have all kinds of different cuts of beef, as well as some sheep and chicken. Various different recipes of all of those different common proteins.
kind sir, would you be most grateful in honoring me with some of your hairy shellfish and some sheep meat, maybe kind of like a lamb chop?
He nods and says, "Excellent choice, sir." And he says, "Any sides?"
Oh yes, please. I would like your fantastic French of the fries.
He nods and he says, "Indeed, indeed, one of our delicacies. So rare in the great multiverse to find such a perfect food."
Indeed.
And he says, "Would you care for sea salt and ketchup and mayonnaise mix?" He says, "My own personal favorite."
Oh please, please. If you feel like this is a great addition, by all means lay it on me. I am famished beyond belief.
His eyes get wide and he says, "Then perhaps I could make an even more bold suggestion." He says, "From the pre-Rifts country, the post-apocalyptic haven of food cuisine called Canada, there is a rare and interesting dish called poutine." He says, "I alone have uncovered its mythical recipe here in North America." And he says, "And I alone wield its magical might upon the stomachs of all living creatures." He says, "A bowl of poutine shall surely do you right, sir." And he bows very deeply and heads off to get your order together. Okay, at this, Ymir, what would you like to be doing as he's ordering?
As he's ordering, Ymir's just kind of lightly strolling down the walkway, digesting his meal. He still feels an itch of that anger, that sadness, that far away. The meal has done a lot to lift his spirit in such a dark mental time for him, but he still has an itch. He's been in a lot of situations and he hasn't been able to flex his combat prowess in a while. So he just casually is making his way towards the training grounds, maybe to set his hammer down for a little while and focus on more of his primal hand-to-hand bear-like fighting style to relieve the last bit of this tension before he goes talk to his brother, because he still feels like the savage tendencies with him could still very much be an issue if he approached his brother in the wrong mindset. So he's looking to completely clear himself of such clouds.
Okay. All right. So you start heading over to the training ground. You give a small nod to Akama, who picks up on it, and you start heading over to the training ground. Akama, you get your order all set, and you're told that it's going to be about 5 minutes until your food is all completed. He asks if you're going to be eating it here or taking it with you, or if you'd like it delivered to quarters. Meaning,
I'm actually gonna eat it here.
Okay. He nods and starts getting everything set. You see Ymir head off to the training grounds, and
Or slung over his shoulder, not in any violent sense, but slung over his shoulder, just casually walking, not really upset. He's still focused. He's still watching out, because he still remembers Snaggletooth being a raven all day, poking his head around all day. So still keeping his eye out, but he's finding comfort now for the first time all day, basically.
okay. All right. So you start heading off. You're in a fairly decent mood, at least an elevated mood from where you've been.
Right.
And you start heading over to the training area. You walk a few moments. Akama, your food shows up, and it is an absolute miracle to behold. It's cooked perfectly, and you kind of laugh to yourself because the first time you ate this dish, you had to eat it raw just to stay alive because something really bad had gone wrong in your dimensional exploration into that dimension. The expedition had gone wrong, and basically you had been trapped for a while, and these creatures were the only things that you basically had to eat for a few days. And so now having it actually cooked by somebody who knows a recipe for it, to make it even more delicious, you're very excited to kind of have this like trip down memory lane happen for you here. Food is always such a excellent vehicle for that kind of thing. So it's set down hot and fresh in front of you, and then a huge bowl, large enough to serve a family, some pasta in, full of perfectly fried potatoes, gravy and cheese is placed down in front of you. You see that there's chopped up candied bacon, as well as all kinds of herbs and seasonings throughout the entire dish. It looks fucking amazing, and it smells fucking heavenly. And then you've got several lamb chops on a small platter, surrounded by some kind of staple vegetables, just cooked perfectly. And he sets it down in front of you with a really rugged looking, simple mega damage steak knife and a mega damage fork, and just kind of leans back. He sets down several napkins and bows as he steps back and says, "Enjoy, noble Atlantean," and turns and scurries off back to his duties. Definitely looks like the best meal you've had in a long time. Are you wanting to dig in, or anything you want to do before you eat?
I'm gonna put my hands, kind of like semi past the food, kind of like trying to like push myself up to a certain extent, I'm gonna put my hands down and then dive my nose into it to smell all the great aromas. And
Excellent.
then right after I do that, I go and I grab one of the lamb chops and take a nice deep bite and start chewing on it.
Okay. All right.
Then my eyes widen so big, like, oh my god, this is great. And then I will pound the table once really loud and say, fantastic! And then I'll stand up and I bring the pork chop and raise it to the sky and like, this is magnificent beyond belief. I have no idea how you got this the way it is.
All right, and as you do this, several of the other people sitting around, there's probably a dozen people in the whole little plaza, the food court. They all rise up in cheers as well and raise their drinks and everything and kind of throw some cheers up in the air and support and celebration of the cooking staff as well. You definitely feel like this place just made your short list of best restaurants you've tried on Rift's Earth so far. All right, and at this, the staff becomes overjoyed and gets really into the excitement of the moment. It's already been a very exciting day for them, and the female cries out in her kind of croaking voice, "A round of free cheap drinks for the entire crowd." And at this, she kind of holds up a hand, and everybody lets out another cheer. And the male starts running around and quickly filling up mugs for everybody of whatever it was that they were drinking. What would you like to have, by the way, as a beverage?
Ooh.
They've got all
What
kinds
is-
of crazy shit. They've got, it says, authentic dwarven ale, which is supposed to be a delicacy across the Megaverse because there aren't a whole lot of dwarves left. Dwarves are known for dying off in most of their iterations on different planets and shit like that. So real dwarven ale is kind of a rarity. There's also lots of different spirits, and then just regular soft drinks and things like that, juices. So
I would like to indulge in that Draven and Dwarven ale.
okay.
And if there's any type of whiskey back there, I would think I would knock that as well.
Okay. You go ahead and place your order, and very quickly both are brought over to you. The dwarven ale is this thick, rich. It looks just a little more thin than honey, with a really, really heavy head on top. That actually has there's almost like a leather and sandalwood smell coming off of this stuff. It doesn't as much smell like food or beverage as it does like really well cured leather goods. And then the shot looks like this kind of bluish tinged. It almost looks more like vodka, with some kind of like coloring in it. But as he sets it down, he says, it's ice wine whiskey. He says, one of my personal favorites. And he kind of nods to you and scurries away. Okay. Any order you want to have anything in? Is there any particular way you want to have your drinks or eat your meal and then have your drinks or any of that?
It's gonna be more of a hybrid, back and forth. Eat a few, then drink a little bit, and eat a few, then drink a little bit.
Okay, when you get to taste the dwarven ale, you can tell that it's authentic. It's definitely authentic, and it's fantastic. Going down, it's really smooth, but it's extremely potent as well. And there's this really pleasant burn that it has, almost like if you guys have ever had Red Hots, it has this kind of this almost like cinnamony kind of fucking burn to it that's pleasing. And then when you take your shot of the whiskey, it actually gives you a chill as it goes down. It feels ice cold. And as it goes down, it gives you this deep chill throughout your torso. And the next several moments as you're breathing out, you're actually breathing out kind of like fog, like you would in a cold environment. It's an interesting effect. but it's very spicy and just has a really pleasing, strong kind of hit to it. With your metabolism, though, you don't feel the effects of either of these drinks. They're not even close to strong enough to really start affecting you. Okay. And you dive into your meal and get eating. Bear, Ymir, you make it over to the training ground, and as you get there, you see that standing in front of the post that is set up for obviously mega damage beings to use as like a striking post. You see that there is this individual whom you have encountered before several times. He is approximately 9 feet tall, thickly built. He is not wearing the huge set of strange hodgepodge armor, however. Now he simply has that chitinous axe-like weapon in hand, and he's wearing essentially like a wife beater t-shirt and a set of what you would guess to be like workout trunks, almost like spandex. And he is definitely, you can see why his friends call him the unit. As he kind of stands in front of the post, you see him heft his axe up over his head, and as he goes to bring it down, you see that there are several spectators still hanging out, people that had been working out obviously over the course of the day on some of the different equipment set up, and sparring. You see that one of them stands and yells out, "Oi, oi! No weapons on the post!" And at this, the large individual freezes and looks back over his shoulder, and really sheepishly he puts his weapon down and kind of tosses it over to the edge of the pit that the post is located in, a sand pit. And as it lands with a loud thud and digs its way several inches into the sand, he kind of checks back almost like a child would, and the individual that stood up nods at him and sits back down. At this, he turns back around and he reaches back and slams a huge meaty fist into the top part of the post, and as he does so, it flexes the mega damage springs that are supporting the post as far as they'll go, leaning about 45 degrees back, and then making a large metallic clanging noise as it literally hits mega damage steel supports at the base at that range of motion, stopping instantly but making a huge amount of noise from the impact. And as it does so, you see the sand all around the area that it's anchored kind of rise up and buckle from the impact. The post swings back forward very quickly and starts losing a bit of momentum each time as it very quickly centers itself between all the springs at the base again. At this, you don't really see most of the individuals still hanging around the area react to incredulously. It seems that people are kind of used to this individual coming out and throwing hits like that to the post. But other than that, you see that there are several different areas set up that look like they have all kinds of training gear that you could utilize for exercise. And then again, there's a large pit in the middle that's kind of just a sand pit for sparring.
Did I see this interaction, or did I hear this interaction where they told the unit, that's a good word for him, they told the unit to toss the weapons. Did Ymir hear that?
Yeah, you saw and heard the whole interaction.
Okay. So as Ymir approaches, hearing what the smaller folk said to the bigger guy, he anticipated having to holster his weapons anyway. He understands with his size and the damage that even his sidearms could cause to most of the people around him. He's very conscious of that. So as a show of solidarity, like, hey, I'm not trying to upset the balance here. He finds one of the mega damage training posts, not the same one that the big guy does or the unit does, but he finds another one of the mega damage training posts, sets his hammer down swiftly, resting it against the wall, takes his 2 axes off of his belt, crosses them with his hands, shows everyone that he is putting them down, sets them right next to him, sets them right next to the hammer, well within arm's reach, well within eye shot. He's not taking his eyes off his weapon or being anywhere far away to where anyone could possibly do anything. He's very conscious of that. So he sets his weapons down, lines up with the training post, knowing that the unit is there, but he's still kind of in his own world. He knows that there could be a confrontation if he walks over or snarls. He's not trying to do any of that. Matter of fact, what he hears is what the Vana call the war drums. Some people would say it sounds like a heartbeat to most other things, but to the Vana they call it the war drums, and that's sort of the preamble to a battle trance that Clan Dire Bear has perfected, that they usually do before, just to kind of honor the gods before they do any sort of training in the image of Aku or one of his children. So after finding his post, Ymir backs up and sits down on his heels and shuts his eyes and listens for the drums, and he can hear them as clear as anything. He can hear them as clearly as if somebody was playing actual drums right next to him, reverberating through his head, through his spirit, through his heart. He drops down on his heels and takes almost kind of a Maori type warrior dance pose, and shoves his arms out with his massive nails and the center of his claw or the center of his palm straight out, and he yells in Vanese, "Aku, Fadar, hear me. Bless my training and give me strength for the battles to come." And he drops down and starts lets out a primal scream after dropping both of his hands down, and rushes the mega damage training post. And from there, it's a whirlwind of knees, elbow strikes, headbutts. It's savagery. It's savagery personified, focused down to almost a fine point, like controlled chaos in a bottle. He just trains as hard as he possibly can, falling away from the world, trying to get out every bit of aggression that he has still left within his veins.
Okay, as you start unleashing all of this pent-up energy and rage and frustration, you hear the crowd around you basically go silent, and even the noise coming from the unit off to your side is completely drowned out, and then you think you can't tell if you just can't hear anybody anymore or if everything has gone silent, but the rest of the world fades away, and images that had been images that had been shown to you previously begin flashing through your mind again of the seven embers, and of the great calamity that befell your people in the past, that you are just now learning about, that perhaps have even left corruption to this day in your fellow tribesmen. As these images kind of come forth in your mind, you feel your training kind of interrupted and somewhat diluted by the imbalance that is now in your heart over everything that's happened in the last few days. All of the revelations coming to a head with what just happened in the bowels of this place itself. You definitely feel that there is schism within your usually tranquil mind and heart, and this is something that you understand will have to be corrected before you can really be at 100% again, or even feel true growth again, because you are unencumbered and unchained by the past. So in this sense, the training is helping you getting out a lot of this anger and aggression so that you can once again kind of be pure, and truly mindful of yourself and your place in the megaverse. But again, there's that seed, something within you that is definitely out of balance. After several moments of this, you start finally getting into more of a rhythm and a groove where you are able to get more deeply into your training, and you're able to kind of set most of that aside. I want to jump back over to Akama. You are pretty much done with your meal at this point. You're feeling really full and refreshed. You feel really good. And you ate everything. I mean, sopped it up with a biscuit, kind of ate everything. And okay, I'd like to see what you'd like to be doing.
I will go ahead and request 2 more dwarven ales.
Okay.
And 1 more of that fantastic whiskey.
All right. You go ahead and do that, and they just kind of continue adding to your bill, and your drinks arrive, and I assume you want to go ahead and, are you wanting to down them, or are you wanting to kind of take your time and just enjoy it, or?
So I will wave at the barkeep, waiter, the small lizard man, and I say, one of those dwarven drinks are not for me. Can you put it in a bigger container by any chance? I will pay extra if need be.
He says we have our gallon size if you'd care for one.
Oh, please, yes.
Okay, so he brings out what's essentially a really cheap kind of wooden mug that's literally got a gallon of this ale in it. So this dwarven ale. Let's see. So all together, you can go ahead and do. You could go ahead and do 50 credits. 50 credits will cover all of that. And yeah, so he gets you all squared away with those.
All right, and right before I leave, I look at the lizard man, and I say something more the lines of, I say something in gobbly
Nice.
and say, "Do you understand what I'm saying?"
And his smile gets extremely broad. And in perfect gobbly with a thick, almost like Brooklyn accent, he responds to you. What would be like a Brooklyn accent? Something very recognizable to anybody that knows gobbly as a regional uh, uh, accent. He says, but of course, sir. He says, you know the high tongue. And he gets really kind of impressed with himself and really kind of self-righteous and just all goosed up.
And in more of a whispering tone, I raise one eyebrow and I ask him, "Do you know a fellow Atlantean by the name of Karn?"
He squints at you suspiciously and he says, why would you be asking, I wonder?
I came across some tapestries about this wonderful Atlantean Nidab. He was named the Atlantean Monster Slayer, and I was just trying to get more information about him and his travels.
Okay. He looks at you and he looks really nervous for a second. And he says very, very nervously and shiftily as he's looking from side to side, making sure nobody's observing you guys. He says, "'Twould be best not to speak of it again, good sir. I like thee, and would prefer for you to stay attached to your head." At this, he turns very quickly and starts walking back over to perform some of his duties behind the counter. You also notice that his wife seems to be staring at you from over the grill, and you're not sure how she would have even heard you, but she looks a bit concerned as well. When she notices you have noticed her noticing you, she quickly looks back down and begins working at the grill feverishly, with all of her attention once again.
I'll leave the drinks on the table and make my way toward the grill.
Okay.
I don't know where they are aside from the female. She's at the grill.
Yeah.
I mean, how close is the grill to me?
It's from the table you were sitting at. It's only like 20 feet away.
All right, so I'll get as close as 5 feet in the radius of them two.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and tip them 100 credits and say, I really do appreciate your meal. And I apologize if I had came off a bit wild, but I'm in search of knowledge, and I do hope you have a pleasant evening. And then I walk off.
Okay. As you do this, her eyes get really wide, and so do his. And they both look up at you kind of just very gratefully. And they both kind of look side to side again, looking around to make sure you're not being observed. And then they look at each other, and she rolls her eyes once and then nods at him kind of impatiently and turns and starts going back about her business. He, however, leans in a little closer to you, and he says, your group is staying the night, yes?
I look back and I say, that is correct.
Okay, and he nods and he says, perhaps we shall speak later. And he winks at you slyly and then turns and starts going about his daily duties again, seemingly trying to kind of hurry off and end the encounter.
Perfect. So I will take my shot of whiskey,
Okay.
leave that on the table, and I'll take my mug and the gallon mug with me, and I'll make my way toward the training area.
Okay. You start heading over, and as soon as you leave the food court, you notice that once again, from around the corner, old Snaggletooth is checking you out. He's peering at you, and as soon as you spot him, zip around the corner he goes. This time you notice that the look in his eye is even more wild and erratic, and you can visibly see, even though he's about 50 feet away when you spot him through a window, you can see that his eye is twitching considerably more. It's clearly visible even at such a long distance now. And then again, once again, he's just gone, like smoke on the water. So as you start heading out of the plaza, as soon as you get on the path heading to the training area, you notice that you're hearing great thundering, ringing noises coming from the training area up ahead. And right away you realize that it must be the posts that you were working out on before being just fucking smashed into oblivion. It sounds like whatever it is hitting this thing hard enough to just do kind of like what your hardest hits against it were when you'd wind up and do power strikes. It's every fucking strike is just ringing this thing like a giant mega damage bell. And because it's anchored into the ground, you're actually feeling a lot of the shock waves being transferred through the ground as well. It's like little mini, almost like earthquakes every time it's getting